Welcome to Investories. Whether you're a seasoned pro looking for that next step or a newbie investor not sure where to start, Investories unlocks the mindset, strategies, and techniques of high performers across business, real estate, and investing to help you level up your journey to financial freedom. This is Investories.
Booyah! Welcome to the Investories podcast with me, your host, John Hooper. And Kyle is busy today, I think. Oh no, what was he doing? He's conferencing. So yeah, you're stuck with me. Sorry, but we've got a really cool guest today, Alex Jarbo. Alex is an ex-Marine. He's a magician, and he's also very good at the short-term rental development space. So this is a little bit different. It's how do you find a suitable market, and how do you build in that market? He's also acquired some really interesting assets, and we walk through a few of those. And he gives you really the hard and fast tips on how to select a market, how to run numbers, and also the changing market conditions that we're seeing and how that's affecting short-term rental kind of profits and experiences and all that good stuff, and how to stand out during these kind of changing times. So yeah, super excited to get you into that interview. Before you go, can I just ask you a favor? Can you give us a nice 5-star review and like our YouTube page, which is in the link on the show notes, or you're watching it on YouTube. If you can, like and subscribe, that would really, really help us. We're growing and we see the growth. We're really excited for our new audience members to be able to tap into this. And if you are a new audience member, say hi. Investories Podcast at gmail.com for email, and Investories Pod on Instagram, and come say hello. Give us a wave. Ask us any questions, and if you have any guest suggestions, someone you want to hear from, or you want to be a guest on the show, let us know. But anyway, without further ado, here's Alex. Booyah! Welcome to the Investories podcast with me, your host, John Hooper. And Kyle is busy today, I think. Oh no, what was he doing? He's conferencing. So yeah, you're stuck with me. Sorry, but we've got a really cool guest today, Alex Jarbo. Alex is an ex-Marine. He's a magician, and he's also very good at the short-term rental development space. So this is a little bit different. It's how do you find a suitable market, and how do you build in that market? He's also acquired some really interesting assets, and we walk through a few of those. And he gives you really the hard and fast tips on how to select a market, how to run numbers, and also the changing market conditions that we're seeing and how that's affecting short-term rental kind of profits and experiences and all that good stuff, and how to stand out during these kind of changing times. So yeah, super excited to get you into that interview. Before you go, can I just ask you a favor? Can you give us a nice 5-star review and like our YouTube page, which is in the link on the show notes, or you're watching it on YouTube. If you can, like and subscribe, that would really, really help us. We're growing and we see the growth. We're really excited for our new audience members to be able to tap into this. And if you are a new audience member, say hi. Investories Podcast at gmail.com for email, and Investories Pod on Instagram, and come say hello. Give us a wave. Ask us any questions, and if you have any guest suggestions, someone you want to hear from, or you want to be a guest on the show, let us know. But anyway, without further ado, here's Alex. Welcome to Investories, Alex Jarbo.
Thanks for having me on, man.
How you doing, Alex?
Good, man.
How's your week been?
Good. A little busy already. I mean, we were coming off of Labor Day yesterday, but it's been full force.
Yeah, so you missed that Monday, and I don't know about you, I get a ton done on a Monday. That's like my
for sure.
big ticket day.
Yeah, I was working yesterday. I was like, I'm gonna take advantage of this day off just to catch up.
That's smart. I did a bit of work, and then I had a child shouting at me to go and play with Lego. The castle I hadn't built wasn't significant enough, and needed an upgrade. Real estate, hey. So Alex, thank you so much for joining us. Alex, you're born and raised from Detroit, Michigan.
Yep.
Which is super cool. You didn't go down the traditional route of college and university. You went through the Marine Corps.
I actually did after the military. Yeah.
You did afterwards?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So
but the Marine Corps at 18?
Yeah. So I did the 5 years in the Marine Corps, and then I what a like bachelor's, MBA in real estate development, and finishing up a doctorate. But I will say
Very
that
cool.
most of that stuff was just for fun because it was there, just to learn some stuff. I haven't really used most of that stuff, to be completely honest. Everything's learned in the School of Hard Knocks, but yeah,
I think that's the rule of life, right? You go to school
yeah,
and it kind of half prepares you, but then full
yeah,
immersion is slightly different. It's a bit like reading a book and then going into the Marines, isn't it? It's like this is
exactly.
a little bit different. It's a bit more
Yeah,
high
just a little
pressure.
different. The book wasn't yelling at me. Yeah.
I think that's a really interesting start point. So for me, I'm a white collar W-2 worker. I've had comfortable, cushy office jobs all of my life. So I find the Marines or military service as absolutely fascinating. And I think there's a real intersect. I met a lot of people that are ex-military, now real estate developers or real estate investors. What does that what does that look like? Is there a hardened kind of mindset or just figuring stuff out?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing is that mentality, I would say, is just I was a Marine Corps infantryman, and just I think the biggest thing that's gained from there is just leadership in general, and just I've said this hundreds of times. It's just like, I didn't realize like the value of being able to communicate and talk to people like through stressful situations, like tactfully. I didn't realize the importance of that and what I'd learned there until after I'd gotten out of the military and realized that that wasn't normal. Because yeah, real estate development when I'm in, and then just overall like these larger real estate deals that we tackle. I mean, there's a lot of stress across everyone on the team, whether they work for me or they work indirectly through me, say like real estate brokers, lenders, and whatnot. There's a lot of stress that comes from that, and being able to keep your cool in those stressful situations is probably the biggest thing. And just how to just to talk, how to talk to people, realizing the value of a phone call or an in-person meeting over just a
Mhm.
text message and email. Um, is probably the most important thing that I gained from my military service.
So I was talking to my wife's nephew, and we were talking about this kind of subject, right? One is like how to get ahead, how to kind of life hacks or business hacks, how to get ahead of other people. The I'd like your opinion on this. The move to text messaging, email, not picking up the phone, not kind of no service, just a exchange. Do you think that will change, or do you think it takes a certain type of person in real estate, and that's
Yeah,
kind of part of it?
I'll take it a step. I'll take it a step further. Real estate's usually the last thing to adapt to anything
True.
techie, right? I mean, we deal with people like some owners and sellers that like they don't even DocuSign, or they don't electronically sign anything. I was actually talking to one of the people that are helping us with one of our builds, and they're like, "Yeah, my," he's like, "I need to sign and scan this over to you." I'm like, "Okay," but like I would take it a step further with real estate. It's the importance of like an in-person conversation, even if you can't do it in person and you do it like this, like through Zoom or whatever
Mhm.
we're recording through here, is very, very important. And a step above that is like you see people on our level, like at the highest levels of real estate, that own like private jets, that they take private jets just to fly 1 day or 2 days just to have an in-person meeting with someone that they're looking to either purchase or partner with. So I don't think that will ever go away. I think the importance of that has only gotten more the bigger I've gotten, is that I don't like doing stuff over text messages or emails when it's like a stressful situation, because things can be misconstrued very
Mhm.
easily. I'm also not afraid of my phone. I'm not afraid of Zoom calls with like dealing, like I said, like with the uncomfortable conversation sometimes. So I think there's always going to be importance for that in-person thing, or at least a phone call, because you can never understand tone through a text message and
Yeah,
email for the most part.
context is key,
Yeah, yeah,
right? Especially if you're
yeah,
talking about numbers or kind of trading or
yeah,
concessions, that kind of stuff. And the other
yeah,
the thing I found was, and I love the fact you touched upon that leadership piece. Probably slightly different from a military background, but
yeah, yeah,
from like my background, I'm like, if you can lead, if you can drive things forward and kind of lead a team that's smarter than you, and if you can do that while kind of keeping a conversation going and dealing with
yeah.
pressure and
Sell,
knowing how to communicate, that's killer.
selling a vision and putting
Hmm.
together and selling a vision is I would say half the battle. I mean, you study important people, you study successful people, whatever you think success is to you. their number one characteristics outside of storytelling is being, I mean, storytelling falls into that and being able to
Mhm.
sell a vision.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and on top of that, I think the decision making, and that's always fascinating. Talking to kind of military people of like, how, that is ultimate pressure, like the decision making process in that, and the kind of overlay in real estate. I guess why real estate? What was the kind of move from Marines? 18, you said you went into the Marines. How long were you there
Yeah,
for?
18. Yeah, 18. Literally 2 weeks after high school graduation. Didn't even have a
Wow.
summer break that year. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, the biggest shift happened the last year of the Marine Corps. I decided I didn't want to re-enlist. Actually, and I started just picking up a lot of business books, general, anything related to business. And I had originally gravitated towards the bigger pockets books when it came to real estate, some of the flipping books. And while I was still in the Marine Corps, I joined a flipping mentorship. And we were like, this was back in the day where, and I say back in the day, like I'm 70 years old, but like back when you had to pick up a phone to do like a group coaching call. And I was on a group coaching call for this flipping mentorship, and the person who ran that flipping mentorship had mentioned that even back in 2000, I think it was 2015, 16, that all of their long-term wealth was tied into short-term rentals. And that sort of perked my ears a little bit.
Mhm.
And I had gotten on a one-on-one call with the person that ran that mentorship, and he sort of helped me. He taught me how to choose a market, choose a vacation rental market. And there was like 3 or 4 markets at that time that we had decided on. And it fell on my fiance at the time, wife now. And we just decided, I was like, hey, I'm really open. The conversation I had with my wife, but also the mentor, was like, hey, I'm really open to moving anywhere. And after we decided on Asheville, North Carolina, where I currently live now, and all of our properties are here, we have plans on going to different markets next year. But that sort of solidified everything. Was like that. I sort of just went down a rabbit hole. It was like I got interested in real estate, then the flipping mentorship, and then that. I'd already decided I wanted to get out. And then the day, same thing. How joining the military, like the day I got out of the military, I drove straight here, and then got my broker's license, my real estate license, and just started helping people buy and sell real estate. I mainly worked with investors, and then in the background, I was always looking for something to purchase. But what I realized in that first year of doing that was either everything was way out of my price range at that time, or it was in my price range. It just wouldn't have done well in my opinion, it would have done well as a vacation rental long term. It would have done well maybe as like a long term rental or a midterm. I don't even know if midterm was even a term back then. But it's like nothing really fit the mold of what I was looking for in my price range at that time. So my very first real estate investment outside of a couple rental arbitrage deals that I had done
Mhm.
with vacation rentals was like a 800 square foot A-frame, new construction, ground up from nothing.
Wow.
And that rolled into 2 more that we built, and then brought on some investor capital from friends that were just like asking me what I was doing, and then ended up teaming up for some of the larger stuff. We ended up teaming up with a fund, and then a second fund that had the money to invest into these larger projects. And then today we are either working, managing, or working to close. Like we're either developing, managing, or working to close on over like 35 million, 40 million in real estate right now, just in
Wow.
this market alone. And I rarely say those numbers because like the market concentration so much, but it's like we're mainly in the luxury market right now of short-term rentals. That doesn't mean like these properties are 5,000-6,000 square foot. We do have properties in our portfolio that are like that, but when I say luxury, it's mainly like the amenities and where the property
Mhm.
is actually situated at, mountain views. Some of our properties are 400 square foot, but I consider them luxury because of the views and the location and the history of the property.
Amazing. What was it that? So I'm always interested when people say about their partner or their wife and how they kind of brought them into buying into the process, or buying into it's a huge chunk of both persons' money, right, and time going into it.
Yeah, I mean,
What was that an
yeah.
easy conversation, or how did that fit?
Yeah, I mean, I've been incredibly grateful to have a partner that even before we were engaged, that was always on board of what I was doing. I mean, I married my high school sweetheart from the military going into real estate, and I mean, I've never said this before, but like, I mean, my wife almost exclusively funded those first real estate deals, and she just had the trust that it would snowball into what it is now. But I mean, like back when I first started, like short-term rental loans weren't a thing. Like we were just getting qualified on like second home construction loans practically. I mean, that's what they were. And coming out of the military, going to school, I didn't have any income, at least to show for. Like I had the military paying for my schooling and whatnot, but like broker commission checks are not consistent income to be able to prove a property. So, I mean, in the beginning, yeah, I everything is attributed to my wife in terms of all those first couple projects. And without those first couple projects and the success they had, I would have never been able to roll into these other ones. So I mean, it just came from a level of trust that I'm just super grateful for.
So was that the driver behind building rather than buying?
Yeah,
The financing piece.
The financing piece, and yeah, we couldn't like. It's like, okay, you got qualified for 180 grand. It's like, okay, go find a rental that you think is going to make a good rental at 180, 200 grand in this market. It wasn't even back then, 2016, 17, it wasn't going to happen. And then it was it's only 800 square feet, that first one. I mean, cash flow is like a monster and we still own it to this day. But what I realized really quickly was the development side of real estate, especially for short-term rentals. You have complete control over the square footage. Every single square foot is optimized, and that deals directly into the cost of it. I mean, we were able to optimize every single square foot of that first property, where we didn't waste anything, and then that directly attributed to just the debt service and everything else that goes with that. I mean, we have properties that we purchased that are like 3,500 square foot, beautiful luxury log cabins, but like in all seriousness, they probably could be 2,200 square foot cabins with how like the one I'm thinking about specifically has massive bedrooms, where like one bedroom could technically be two bedrooms. So stuff like that. It's like that. To answer your original question, we just gravitated towards the development because that was all we could afford at the time. It wasn't even the thought of like, is development hard? It's like this is the only path right now if we want.
There is no plan B.
Yeah.
I like
absolutely.
that. I think that's fair. Yeah, we because we bought a few years back, probably in the height of the short-term rental kind of people investing, and we'll get onto that. And your kind of experience on that. But we got killer financing on it. So actually the argument is the value in our property the finance that's attached to it, or is it the actual property itself? It's a bit of both.
That's a very good question.
We've seen slowdown, but we've also bought a property that we knew could weather the storm of any slowdown. So I'm interested in your view.
Yeah, very tough skin to do that. It's one thing to say that. I mean, you guys are already doing it. It's another thing to do it. So it's like what I've realized with like raising capital and just talking to investors, it's compared to like last year or the beginning of last year, even the year before, it's like it's very easy to say like, oh, when a recession happens or when a downturn, I'm not gonna call it a recession, a downturn. It's very easy to say all those things like during that time, and now that we're actually in it, it's like people are like very, very skittish, which is it's a cool learning point.
Yeah. You remember that line in the presentation that says values can go up and down, returns can all that.
Yeah, absolutely.
It is investing. That's really funny. In terms of, so I want to dive into that, but I really want to get your take on what makes a good market, or maybe how you pick a market and then pick a neighborhood and kind of drill into it. What does that look like for you?
Yeah, so for vacation rentals, it's more idea based. There's more different ways to do it. So it's like if you're looking at, I'll say I've coached over close to 4,000 or 5,000 students in short term rentals, 5,000, and the AirDNA data can be like AirDNA is one of the tools that you can use to underwrite a property. That stuff can be very misleading if you don't know how to filter it properly. So when it comes to market analysis, I like markets that existed as vacation rentals prior to like Airbnb and VRBO back in the day where you had to pick up a phone to book a vacation rental. A lot of times those markets are automatically protected by vacation rental laws. I'm not going to say every single city and market is like that, but if you look at like Gatlinburg, Pigeon Forge, I mean, I'm not like that market can be looked at as saturated, and there are some reports that say that, but first step is getting into a market that obviously if you're purchasing, has already some sort of established short-term rental laws. That doesn't mean that if there's a permit there that you're just completely disregarding that city, because I look at permits as a good thing, like as long as you can get them, because there's some cities out there that have completely outlawed short-term rentals. If you can get a short-term rental permit, if there's a guidance on like a county website, it's pretty easy to do it, because they're and that's also that ties into the value of property, which we can talk about differently. But that's step one, is just getting into a market, finding markets like that historically are some sort of short-term rental markets prior to the OTAs, the online travel agencies like Airbnb, VRBO. Other thing, I like to invest. I don't necessarily like beach markets too much. I like to invest in mountain markets that are not really ski resort type of properties, like ski resort type markets. Blue Ridge Mountains are very historically are like that. Gatlinburg, Pigeon Forge, the Smokies are like that. West Coast, I haven't played around too much with it, but there are markets like that on the West Coast. Those markets tend to be a little bit less seasonal. Every market's going to have their seasons, but we've always cash flowed in the winter, not as aggressively, obviously, during our high season, but we've always cash flowed during our slow season as well. So that's number two. The number one is choosing market again that historically has short-term rentals. I like mountain markets. That's number two, and then three, which is a strategy that we accidentally got into, but I've heard a lot of people speak on it the last 4 or 5 years, is investing into some sort of market that is close to either to a national forest or a national park. We were investing prior to COVID, but during COVID, the lockdowns, once things slowly started to open up, where international travel was still difficult, the national parks and the national forests saw record numbers. And that's what drove a lot of the short-term rental stuff, and the growth that happened there. And then the last thing that I've always told students is that if you can't find either one of those three things, or you just don't want to go out of your city, I always think about a city or an area that people are vacationing to, where they're say I'm in Detroit, Michigan, where I grew up. Detroit itself, in my opinion, I wouldn't be investing in Detroit because I invest in more rural markets. So I'd be thinking about where a city that people are vacationing, taking extended weekend vacations to, that is in my area, maybe 1 to 2 hours away. To me, that if I'm in Detroit, Michigan, that's northern Michigan, where a lot of the vacation rental markets are northern Michigan, in that 2-hour radius to Detroit. So if you don't want to go and find these national forests, national parks, mountain markets, historically with short-term rentals, blah, 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 just think of a place that people are taking extended weekend vacations to in your market that's about an hour or two away. And that tends to be, there's thousands of these pocket markets is what I like to call them. And they're scattered throughout the whole country, if not world, where they're not going to appear on any type of vacation rental list, like top 20, top 30 markets to invest in. But you're going to know very easily just by knowing your market that's going to be a good vacation rental market, because you grew up there, or say you have friends that are constantly going to these markets. You're going to know that better than anyone.
I like that. Yeah. That's great. Yeah, that kind of local knowledge. I felt good. We own in the mountains, and then I felt bad. We own right on a ski slope, so we see the opposite seasonality. We see very slowish in the summer, and then in the winter it was kind of booming. This winter we did well until ironically too much snow closed the mountain down.
Oh yeah,
yeah,
that's funny.
So there's a thing I didn't think was going to be a problem in Southern California. Was too much snow, but there it is.
I guess you got to get there. You got to drive there.
The infrastructure just fell over. Basically, they couldn't get gas up the hill and all.
Where's that
at? Big Bear Lake.
Oh yeah, beautiful.
Yeah,
it's a beautiful park. I've done bachelor parties in Big Bear in the summer, so it's just slower.
We're right on the mountain. We're 5-minute walk to the lifts. Condo with a deck out the back, so it's beautiful. It's just not a lake house in the summer that you kind of fantasize about, rather than. But the difference is, come the ski season, you can literally just walk out your front door and skip the traffic and all that kind of stuff. So
that's awesome.
Swings and roundabouts. How do you pick a good property? And you said about kind of designing an ideal property and maximizing the square footage. What does that thought process look like?
It's a lot of Instagram pictures, a lot of Pinterest pictures that we save. That's on the development side. If you are comfortable with going that route, when it comes to choosing a property, obviously underwriting it just like a normal vacation rental. And when I say normal vacation rental, you're looking at your occupancies, you're looking at all that fun stuff. Mm-hmm. You want something unique about the property if you have some sort of control over it. So accent walls, interior design, if you don't have any control, of the outside of the property, interior design has gone a very long way in the last year as this market, as this real estate asset class has become way more saturated and I'm not gonna say saturated, but way more competitive. And there's some phenomenal companies out there. I forgot the one. There's one that's like I had met at a conference. But interior design is going to be, if you're going into a property, like putting some sort of line item or budget, whether you can tie it into your loan or going out of pocket, is don't go cheap on the furniture if you're going to be purchasing like a short-term rental. And then also playing with the interior design piece if you're just purchasing. Now, if you're building, I mean, sky's the limit with that. Like I said, optimizing the square footage where you're not wasting any square footage and you're just leaning on your GC and your architect for that. And then something unique, like what we're doing, what we've always done, but it became more popular as the platforms progressed and evolved, is people are looking for, especially with us going through sort of like a little bit of a downturn right now, is people are looking for a property that is an experience outside of the city that they're visiting. And if you can sort of provide that, it sort of plays into your entire like business strategy. And we can talk about that with marketing channels and how to get to your occupancy up. But if you're developing, like I said, sky's the limit. If you're just purchasing, just earmarking some sort of budget for interior design, like really well done interior design. Because at the end of the day, your pictures sell the property, whether you like it or not. And if you have something unique in your listing, I mean, that's even better.
That's cool. Yeah, one of the things I really want to tackle on our place is the deck. So we have a deck out the back with a huge pine tree through the middle of it,
Beautiful.
and it looks cool. But it's kind of just it's a snowy place, right? So we've been apprehensive in terms of what do we put out there, and we need to figure out what that looks like. I want to put some lights out there, and maybe a
Absolutely.
mural or something would be really cool. Yeah, we're not quite in the hot tub territory yet. We're not sure about a hot tub and the liability.
That used to be a conversation that was a little bit more like, I remember 2 years ago, 3 years ago, people were like tying prices to like, hey, you can get $20 to $50 more on your average daily rate if you had a hot tub. I've seen that slowly progress down.
Mhm.
Like I stopped putting hot tubs in my budgets, like compared to like 2-3 years ago.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. And so let's talk about what's going on in the market. And
Yeah.
you've done some work for Bigger Pockets. You've written some articles. You said there's been a bit of a gap between short-term rental articles. Can you talk us through kind of what you've seen, the trends, and then what was really interesting in our initial conversation before we started recording was the idea of comments are slightly different from previous articles today. Can you talk us through that?
Yeah, I mean, there for people who are operators, like you and me, like we have definitely seen a shift in the last year, I would say. And there's a lot of different things that attributed to that. I mean, the downturn that we're having here in the States, plus just international travel being opened up, people being cooped up in the States and wanting to go internationally. Different attributes, but the biggest thing that I've seen, the biggest shift, is that people who got into the short-term rental game prior to COVID, but say during COVID when everyone was inside, just looking at like if maybe you came across an influencer, someone's like, hey, I made this much money doing short-term rentals, and maybe someone was just in a position to just purchase a short-term rental no matter what it looked like and just threw it on Airbnb and be like, I'm good to go. Like that's my entire business. Those are sort of the operators and the properties that are struggling right now. Is I've said this in the last 8 months, is when people ask you what you do, you shouldn't be saying I'm in Airbnbs. Technically you're in hospitality. Even beyond vacation rentals, you're in hospitality. And that should be the attitude that you have going. If you're an operator now, or if you're looking to get into vacation rentals, you're in hospitality and you should be treating it like a business. So what does that mean, treating it like a business? It means going on multi-channel. That's step one, meaning you're not just on Airbnb, you're on Airbnb, VRBO, Booking.com. And taking it a step further is if you want to go beyond just owning one property, is you're building out a direct booking platform, either building it out or utilizing one that's already there, that you can pay into, and treating it like a business where you're creating an email list and let's say like a phone number list where you can SMS text to. The way we've done it, and we've been collecting emails for the last 4 years, is we use a service called StayFi, and StayFi is a little. I've talked about StayFi for the last 2 years. It's a little disk that plugs into the back of your router, and it creates a landing page for your internet. And imagine you're going to Starbucks or airport, you have to put your email address in to get access to the internet. Same idea. And say like you have a larger property that sleeps like 16, like one of our properties, you're not just getting the email address of the person that's booking, you're getting everyone's email address that is staying at that property. That way you can remarket to them. And we're not like sending spammy emails. We're sending, say, like seasonal emails going into, say, if we're going into our high season 2 months prior, we're sending a seasonal newsletter or whatever. That's really important. That is the difference between people who are struggling right now and people who are starting to do better coming out of if they were struggling or not, is going multi-platform, treating it like a business, building an email list through a service like StayFi, and then being able to control your guests. And it's almost gone full circle where I've said that Airbnb, VRBO, the other channels, they should be looked at as marketing arms to your business. And then your eventual goal is to be able to control the guest. Just like if you were selling this water bottle on Facebook or Google ads, like promoting it through Facebook, Google ads. I look at Facebook, Google ads as like the Airbnb, VRBO, but your eventual goal is to be able to control your customers. So that is the difference. That is the shift that's happened in the last like year, is people going multi-platform and then also treating their properties like a business. And if you can't do that, I'd recommend finding a manager in your area that already has those systems in place where you can, maybe you thought you wanted to be a short-term rental operator, but now it's like it's one, maybe they're not profiting.
Yeah.
So some of these bigger managers in the markets, like they have access to channels that just a normal mom and pop, say you have 1 or 2 properties, just don't have access to.
That's really interesting. Yeah, I think that one thing we found really important was just finding that right set of team members.
Yeah.
I feel really lucky to have and taking care of them. We feel lucky to have done that. And
Absolutely.
yeah, so in terms of how has this trend kind of converted to, I guess, the stuff you've been writing for Bigger Pockets, and then also kind of the feedback in the community of short-term rental owners. I find that quite interesting.
Yeah, it's a combination of everything. Like I said, it's a combination of interest rates going up, where it's harder for people to purchase properties. It's also with the economy slowing down, people are traveling less. With the borders practically fully open, I mean, practically they're fully open. They're not traveling domestically, so people who are traveling domestically here, they've become pickier, right? And I feel like now, whenever we were just talking about this, like I said before we started, I hadn't written anything for Bigger Pockets in 6 months. Prior to that, I'd written 9 articles just in 5 months, and or 6 months. And we just pushed one out. Like they just pushed one of my articles like 2 days ago, and the comments were rough. And I try to stay away from reading the comments for the most part, unless if someone tells me, "Hey, you should check out the comments. There's actually some really good conversations happening in there." This most recent one was not the case, and I saw that it wasn't the content itself; it was just the shift, and that was like, I'm not gonna say the first time I've seen that shift, but it definitely solidified it. Like, okay, like you have to be treating this like a business. I think gone are the days of you're just grabbing a random property and throwing out Airbnb. And the comment section of the articles was, and I feel like everyone's just gonna hop on that article now just to check it. But like the comment section of that article was just something that I was like, oh, okay, like it's harder now. So that we already had those systems in place prior to that, but it's just interesting.
It's being a bit more tactical and responding. That's really interesting. Yeah, and I think what we haven't done is the direct to guest kind of engagement post stay and collecting emails and follow-ups, not the right word.
If you don't want to build out your website, you can just you can just plug in StayFi into your property. It's really cheap to do it, and just that's what we did. I mean, we launched our direct booking site this year, and we were collecting emails from the beginning because it was so cheap to do it.
Yeah, and we should, because most of our guests this year have been, or a lot of them have been repeat guests wanting to come back, having a good experience. Shout out to my wife for being.
StayFi has their own platform that's built in that has templates and everything too. It's
amazing.
Very easy and cheap too. You don't have to use MailChimp or everything. They already have a white label software already in there. Yeah.
Okay, well, there you go. There's a hot tip there. in terms of, so I want to go back to your business, and you talked about it. It is a business, short-term rentals, hospitality. It certainly is a business, and it needs kind of attention and care and treated with seriousness and all that good stuff. Talk to me about the scale, and how you've kind of scaled from those first two. I think you said the two kind of A-frames. What was that process, and what was kind of, was it driven by necessity or intentionality or creativity? What does that look like?
The biggest thing that I realized, and it comes from when I first started, there was like maybe one vacation rental book out there to read from. So everything that I know about real estate came from good mentors that I'd reached out to. Like if I read a multifamily book, I'd reach out to the author because it's relatively easy to do that. Most of what I know about short-term rentals and vacation rentals, I know from multifamily. And from multifamily, and that's why I've always had a really good experience and just a very good an easy conversation to have with someone that is multifamily if they're looking to invest in some of our stuff. Is there was really, for my time, the team was obviously bigger, and the numbers bigger too, but there was no difference between me developing one property, like one single family property, or if we were developing 7. For the most part, my time was almost the same exact thing. It was obviously a bigger team. So when I looked at my goals for the year, looked at my goals, say 5-10 years, I realized that I couldn't just be building one and 2 properties at a time. That obviously worked for me to get the ball rolling and get that flywheel going. But to achieve my goals, but if I wanted to do some of the bigger stuff, I knew that it was a realization that I had with the mentor that it was almost the same amount of time, whether it be, and it was almost easier. Like that very first property that we talked about, the A-frame, I looked at over 100 parcels, like to decide on the one that we settled on. When you're doing these larger deals, when you're looking at 20 acres, 30 acres, 40 acres, 100 acres, there's not too many of those in that market, like not as many as like the 1, 2, 3 acres. It was just easier to underwrite the properties. So that's where that whole thing came from, of doing larger deals and teaming up. And the teaming up with funds just came from me realizing that I couldn't raise the capital initially because I was so focused on the day-to-day operations at that time. Yeah.
Very cool. Sorry, I hadn't unmuted my mic for people watching on YouTube. That's really interesting. So in terms of, I think I totally get the project thing. I've worked on a lot of big projects and small projects, and in my W2, and know that kind of time feels to expand the time
Absolutely.
you have. In terms of the financing piece, what did that look? Because a lot of people hear fundraising or figuring out the construction financing. There's a kind of gap between those 2 points. And the biggest kind of hurdle is I guess self-belief, or also just going out and asking people for money. What did that look like? Was there kind of bridging loan products that you use between them? I don't mean a bridge loan. I mean,
no, I've got
private
bridge
money,
loans.
that kind of stuff.
Completely fine. So it's all depending on how big you want to go. 1 to 4 units. Most lenders, if you're low, I hate to say local credit union because everyone says that, but some of our earlier loans were local credit unions because they were just, they became comfortable with lending on vacation rentals. So like anything 1 to 4, even on the construction side, it's relatively easy to get now. I mean, I can plug a couple companies here right now: Aloha Capital, Host Financial, Kevin from Aloha, and then Adam from Host. But those are 2 very good options. Granted, as we're recording this, interest rates are high, so just take that into account when you're underwriting. And then when you're getting into the larger stuff, say like 5+, surprisingly, again, the interest rates are like closer to like 11% right now. Last time I got quoted on one. You can get SBA financing and stuff like this. You need to find the right SBA lender, but once you find that SBA lender, it's a normal business loan. It's just construction. It's construction to perm, or if you're refinancing out of that construction loan. So that is the 2 biggest gaps. There is, you can find 1 to 4 unit short-term rental, vacation rental lenders relatively easily. I just gave 2, Aloha and Host. And on that other side, SBA financing. I said hospitality. If you're doing these 20 unit, 40 unit, I call them micro resorts, which is what we're working on now. You can tap into hotel loans, hospitality loans, brokers. That world automatically exists, and that shift is the same shift that happened with residential loans and residential investor loans, like for vacation rentals in the last 5 years, where they're more like easily accessible now. That's sort of happening with the hospitality side is what I'm seeing. It's very early stage, but that's how we've been able to fund. And then for ones that we were like, we want to close sooner. We just have, you just mentioned it. We've done larger bridges. I mean, $4 or $5 million bridges to get the deal across the table.
That's great. Yeah, I'm going to dig into that hospitality loan piece. There's a few things I really want to own, and one of them is a boutique motel or hotel.
Yeah.
So
that's a hospitality loan. I mean,
yeah,
it's a
I'd never
hotel
thought
loan.
of that. I hadn't done that much work into it, and you see it and you go, oh, that's a hard stop on kind of progressing. Like, in terms of those kind of products, what do you need to show in terms of experience?
Experience is going to be the biggest thing, and if you can't show that experience, I'd recommend putting a manager behind it. So it's like, and bake that. So like, I made this decision so I can focus on the social media aspect of it, and then also just the general strategy of the properties. But I did bring on the top manager in my market to handle all the day-to-day stuff. And surprisingly, they are doing way better than I was doing, like my team. And then my team is now focused on, we reshuffled a couple positions, but now without like having to get rid of anyone. But now my team is focused strictly on strategy and social media, and growing the entire company outside of this market. But that's just the shift that happened in the last like year and whatnot, is like, with us doing these larger deals, and it also helped, we realized it helped resale value, is like, when we were getting these loans, the bank actually didn't like that we were like, me being an owner and also putting the deal together. They also didn't like that I own the management company, surprisingly, when we were doing the larger deals.
Okay. Yeah.
So putting a manager, even though I do have bigger pockets, I have I have an MBA in real estate development. I have 7 years of experience. Putting a manager behind this larger property that we did was very, very helpful, both for raising capital and then also for getting that bridge financing.
Very cool. And then in terms of the final piece of that is the kind of raising money from, and is that through crowdfunding or through 506?
We tried the first 3 months we did it. We tried to do it through like a couple family offices, and it was just trying to get everyone to agree on a certain thing, which I completely understand. I mean, these family offices were willing to contribute $3-4 million a piece to get the deal done. But then we slowly evolved into just doing it through crowdfunding, which I've teamed up with funds to do that, but I've never done that myself. This is a big part of it. Doing podcasts was another step. And then also just like we're working, and I'll plug them here, we're working with LocalVest to market this property across like LinkedIn, YouTube, and Facebook. And they've done a really good job with that. It's just it's the same thing with any other business. Like I said, we treat it like a business. It's like we have marketing run by LocalVest. We're doing marketing through podcasts, through my own channels as well, and through my own network, email marketing as well. And then we're pushing everyone to our investor website that we specifically built for that one property that we're raising for. And then there's just a whole bunch of back end stuff. Yeah.
Sorry. So I really want to talk about that property. First, I want to talk about magic.
Okay, let's do it. Yeah.
So you're a magic fan? You're a magician?
It's funny because I was saying I was a magician for 10 years, but that was 10 years ago. So I've been a magician for close to 20 years. I originally got into it because my mom taught at the school that I went to in Detroit, and I was very introverted as a kid. So there was like a magic store that was like 30 minutes away from us that offered free magic classes. This is when I was like 10 years old. And that slowly evolved into me carrying that through middle school, high school talent shows, winning talent shows, into the military. And then I use it as like a networking thing now, like at real estate events. And it's a really cool icebreaker. It's not like I'm just coming out and just approaching someone and be like, going to do magic. But like if there's a conversation that progresses into the night, or maybe we're at a bar or something, I'll slip that in. And there's always like is he about to pull a rabbit out of a hat type like thing? But it's like it's mainly street magic stuff. But yeah, I've been doing it for 20 years, and it's just a hobby that's always stuck with me, and it's just evolved into this networking thing that's just really cool.
And you have a record, right?
I do, yeah. Let me see if I can move my camera. Yeah, so I have a Guinness World Record right there.
Wow.
When I first came out of the military, I was like, I was very bored. Like I went from I went from like a tempo of like 80 to 100-hour weeks, and I hate to put hours on it because it was like days, because there isn't really like a schedule in the military. I was going to school full time, but I was getting my broker's license and starting. So I had a lot of time on my hands, and I was like, I always wanted a Guinness World Record. So I just like went on their website and saw what was like the easiest thing to get, which was I wanted something that was either, it's funny that you mentioned it because it's tied to magic. I wanted something that was either coin or like card related, and it was like furthest distance to roll a coin. I was like, that sounds easy enough, and we did it here. So yeah, and then like I submitted
cool.
it. I submitted everything. 6 months later, they sent me a cert because you don't have to pay to bring someone out. You can just have a whole bunch of people film it, which is what I did, and then we just submitted all the evidence.
Wow, and look at that for social proof. I'm trustworthy. I have a
Exactly.
Guinness World Record.
It's like the first thing I put in my investor deck too. It's like, yeah, here are the numbers. Anyways, no.
Ask me about coin rolling. Well, I do want to ask you before you go, and I'm conscious of time. The mini resort, micro resort, is that what you call it?
That's what I've been calling them. Yeah,
cool.
Micro, and that came from my wife and I were visiting Tulum Beach, Mexico, and we realized.
Oh, I just got back from there.
Yeah, all the properties there on the beach, like they're 15 to 30 unit, but they're beautiful. That's where that idea came from, was like the micro resort. It's like, how do I bring this to the States? And I'm not gonna say I'm the one who brought it up, like invented it, because I'm not, but it's like these like 20, 40 unit type of properties, 15 to 40 unit. I think that is the future of hospitality, even outside of hotels. Is these like really, like, you can focus on the guest, you can give them a luxury experience, and they're just very unique, where the guest is just proud to put them on their social media, which just drives into the marketing piece of it. Yeah.
And so what is it tree houses or tree house themed, or what is that?
The one we have under contract right now that's in the middle of development as well. We're not taking over the development. The current owners are actually going to be finishing up the development, but originally it was a 7-unit treehouse community. Beautiful, beautiful. In my opinion, it's one of the top short-term rental properties in the country. And they're building out another 13 units, literally like most beautiful mountain views I've ever seen. And we've been working on that deal for the last like 6 months or so.
Wow, I'm excited to see that. Is there anything you can link in the show notes?
openatlas.investments, and I'll send you the link right after this so we can put it in the show notes. But yeah, openatlas.investments with an S, no .com after, just investments. And then that'll take you directly over to the investor site, which we spent 4 days putting together like a 15-minute investor video of an entire walkthrough of the property, drone footage, every essentially took the pitch deck, turned it into a website and a video for the investors.
And for those that haven't been to Tulum, other than it being incredibly expensive to eat out, it's jaw-droppingly beautiful. And these hotels are like they were just dropped on the beach, and they've all got kind of slightly different vibes and tree houses, and they're all beach running throughout it. There's no floor. It's just a beach.
I've been trying to court. I don't know which one you guys stayed at, but Azulik is the big. Yeah,
we stayed in Hotelito Azul, which is not too far from there.
Azulik. I've been trying to court.
Very nice.
Yeah, I've been trying to court them to do something here in the States, and it's been fun. Yeah.
Yeah, that place was beautiful. I think that was kind of getting up there in price for us, but beachside villa, swing chair out on the deck overlooking the ocean. Amazing.
But it's not like Cancun where there's like 1,000 units. It's like 20, 40 units, and you're in this little community. So
super, super nice. Alex, how can people get in touch with you?
My LinkedIn is probably the easiest way to do it. If you guys, it's just Alex Jarbo. And then if you guys are interested in the website, in the investment, the website, like I said, is openatlas.investments. It's also linked in my LinkedIn, if the easiest way to find it, to be honest.
LinkedIn. And in terms of mentoring, things like that, are you still actively mentoring people?
I do it through B&B Formula. So like B&B Formula, Brian Page's group. I personally don't do the one-on-one stuff anymore. But I started with B&B Formula. That was another thing. I purchased the course like whenever I started, like 6 years ago, 7 years ago now. But I do all my coaching through B&B Formula.
Amazing. Alex, I really appreciate your time and super interesting conversation. Hopefully our listeners liked it as well. I think they're going to get a ton of value. Thank you so much for your time.
Oh, thanks for having me on, man.
Cool. And we'll be back next week.
Thank you for watching Investories. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.